You're listening to the Zach Lowe Show, sponsored by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during an NBA playoff game. That's right now, even after tip-off. Just look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back, relax, and track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. And if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 and over and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Okay. Teenage me hated the Knicks. I grew up in Knicks country. And teenage me I'm born 1977. So mid-90s Knicks is my coming of age as a sports fan. Basketball is my favorite sport. And boy, did I hate those teams. And part of it was I liked being a contrarian. I think all my friends were Knicks fans. I live in Knicks country. This is like Knicks Rangers 1994. Like I could still hear "Let's go Knicks, let's go Rangers" being chanted in the hallways during passing time in June 1994 when both teams are in the finals. And I was just stupid, like a stupid teenager. I brought into every stupid narrative. Oh, the Knicks are bullies. They're violating the rules. They're playing football. What is this stuff? And I remember when Ewing missed the finger roll in Game 7 of the second round in 1995. Down one, game-winning finger, the C's parted, game-winning finger roll. Bounce, clank, Knicks lose, Pacers move on to the conference finals where they lose to Orlando. I remember coming in and like a little asshole, little just snot asshole, miming the Ewing finger roll to all my Knicks fans. Oh, here comes Ewing for the win. Oh, here comes Ewing for the win. Oh. That's also the.
Did you get the shit kicked out of you that year?
No, because all my friends were nerds like me. No one knows how to fight. You think any of my friends knew how to fight?
I mean, you might have said it to the wrong guy at some point. You might have.
No, I knew who. Look. It was all in good fun, and they had. I mean, just the Mets Yankees shit talk that was flying back and forth all the time. It was just part of our DNA as nerd sports fans. That was also the 8 points, 9 seconds series, one of the greatest moments in the history of NBA basketball. That's 1995. 1994, Knicks won in the conference finals. 1995, Pacers win in the conference semifinals. 1999 is LJ, 4-point play. Knicks without Ewing, 8th seed, win the Eastern Conference Finals, 4-2, break the Pacers' hearts, make the finals, lose to the Spurs. And in 2000, the Pacers win the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, they played last year. This is an awesome rivalry and an awesome, super interesting matchup. And I'm going to say right now, Howard Beck, it's 10:31 a.m. I still haven't made my pick yet. I'm just going to make it spur of the moment when we get to the end of this segment. I cannot wait for this series. It's also, they were identical. Indiana and New York finished with identical ratings in defensive efficiency, tied for 13th in the NBA. Their defensive shot profile is like identical. Both teams allow very few threes and allow a decent to an alarming number of shots at the basket. Their effective field goal percentage, both expected and actually allowed, is like identical. Their paths to the playoffs are interesting. Indiana gets the Bucks essentially without Damian Lillard. I mean, he comes back and he plays 3 games. I think he was 6 for 27 in the whole series. And then they get Cleveland, which, by the way, we haven't talked a lot about Cleveland. And they win 4-1 against Cleveland. And the last game is like the game 2 is the one that swings it, is the game that Mobley, Hunter, and Garland all sit, and the Cavs should have won. And it's an incredible miracle comeback by the Pacers, culminating in Halliburton missing a free throw, getting a rebound on a lane violation, and then hitting a 3. You know, Garland clearly was limited, could barely dribble without falling over, or couldn't change directions as easily. Sometimes looked okay, sometimes not so much. Other than that one game, everybody played for the Cavs. They were banged up, but everybody, it's not, I think there was like this, and I was guilty of it too. People digested that series as like, well, you know, you just got to move on to next year. Like, blah, blah, blah. Everybody was injured. It's like everybody played. That was a shit series by the Cavs. It was another soft exit by the Cavs, and the Pacers roll along. The Knicks get a healthy and tough Pistons team, and then a Celtics team that was healthy right until they weren't, but that was going to be 3-1 Boston, or 3-1 New York, rather. So it's sort of eye of the beholder how you look at which team has had the, quote, tougher path here, or how to evaluate Indiana's path. I think this is a really fascinating series, and I cannot decide who to pick. I think it's going to be a super even series.
At one point, to your point of how even it is and how tough it is to pick, at one point I was just like, just stream of consciousness typing down notes. And I'm like, well, if you want to beat the Knicks, just do not let it be close in the fourth quarter because Brunson's going to tear you apart. And then I thought, but wait a minute. If it's close to the fourth quarter, Tyrese Halliburton might tear you apart. Like, yeah, don't either end of this. Don't let it be close. I think if you want to win any game in this series, you're best served by being up by 20 or 30 points, because these are two of the best clutch players in the league right now. Jalen Brunson, literally the clutch player of the year. I think he was top of my ballot. And Halliburton has just had some incredible moments. And they've both these teams got here in part by like just, shaking off 20-point deficits, just wiping them out. And they both are great on the road. The Pacers won Game 4 at Milwaukee to take the 3-1 lead in that series. They won Games 1 and 2, of course, in Cleveland, and then 5 to close them out. They were I looked up last year's series. Last year's series, Pacers-Knicks, is not very helpful considering how many Knicks were not playing, and also the Knicks having since swapped out a few guys. But the Pacers were 0-3 at the Garden last year in that series. And then, of course, won Game 7 there, when the Knicks, of course, also had no bodies left. But the Pacers are just, the point being, Pacers are not daunted by anything or anywhere or anyone. I love that about them. They've got a swagger that seems to like go just far, far, far outstrip their resumes. They strut around like a team that's won 3 championships.
Tyrese did the Cassell dance. He did the big balls dance. And my favorite thing about that was the NBA just quietly deciding, okay, we're just gonna warn you on this one.
Didn't they find him?
Did they find him? I thought they warned him. I think
they find him. Yeah.
Fines for that dance. I'm looking it up now.
I'm convinced that secretly, sometime over the years, the NBA named their deputy commissioner the church lady from Saturday Night Live. Like that's every time they're like cracking down on profanity. Every time they're cracking down on the big balls dance. It's I just in my head it's the church lady.
Tyrese Halliburton did the dance. He will not pay a fine. Damn right, he won't pay a fine. Do it again, and you might pay a fine, young man. Dare to do it again. Do it again if you have a moment.
Do it again.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
The rivalry part of this is real. Like, it doesn't matter that none of these players had anything to do with all of the wonderful moments in the 90s that you just took us down memory lane on. It's memory banked. It's in the DNA of New Yorkers and of Indianapolis.
East Coast versus no coast.
No, what was
Big
that?
city versus Midwest.
Hicks versus Knicks. Was that the? Everybody, by the way, as preparation for this series, your homework, everybody, is to go watch Dan Clores's film. God, what was the documentary? I can't remember the name now. That was
on Reggie and Spike.
Yes. Incredible. That should be everybody's preparation, including mine, because it's been too long since I've seen it and I've forgotten too much of it. It was awesome.
That's me awesome. for the non-YouTube people. It's me doing Reggie doing the choke sign at Spike Lee.
Tyrese Halliburton. I looked up my story from the elimination game last year. Tyrese Halliburton wore that on a T-shirt to his post-game interview after the Pacers eliminated the Knicks last spring. So that was phenomenal.
You got to give it to Tyrese Halliburton. He's a big pro wrestling fan, and he brings that to the NBA, and he does not care. Like, he wears that shirt, and now he's going to see this again. There was was it Zerbiak? Who went at him and called him a fake all-star on MSG Media?
Yeah, Knicks employee Wally Zerbiak called him a fake all-star, which he later apologized for. I think that was because...
Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Own it, Wally Zerbiak.
He took it back.
You said what you said.
And then we've got the Athletic poll that called him overrated, although our friend Rachel Nichols did a nice job of breaking down the math there. I think she determined that it was like 9 players determined that he was the most overrated, because if you took the number of players that they actually got for the poll and then used the percentages that they listed, it's a really small number that actually called him that, but it ends up a headline.
He did the Dame time in Damian Lillard's face,
he brings
which, by
a
the
lot
way,
on himself.
If there's a player that I'm not super pumped to antagonize in big moments, it's Damian Lillard, the guy who's made 2 walk-off series-winning shots. But the cool thing about it is he does it, and if it gets blown back in his face, he's completely fine with that. He knows the risks, he knows the embarrassment factor, and he does it anyway because it lights a fire under him, under his teammates, and it's awesome theater.
And he doesn't get testy about it when he's then asked about it or when he's called out on it, right? Like, that's the thing. He definitely will just own it. He's having fun with it. Are we going to see him hit a big 3 and then do this? Is he going to taunt Brunson?
I don't know. I hope he taunts I hope he taunts freaking Chalamet. I hope he goes after the whole. Maybe I hope he taunts all of them. Tracy Morgan, is there a good Tracy Morgan taunt? I mean, I don't want to taunt Tracy Morgan. He's beloved NYC institution. But Stiller, get Stiller.
Leave Stiller out. Do not go after my guy Ben Stiller. That's where I draw the line.
This is New York,
of the real
man.
one's Ben Stiller.
This is New York. Fat Joe is fair game. Go at him. Jerry Ferrara, Turtle.
They're also like the Knicks over the last couple of years have done this thing where they're bringing back everybody, Marbury's at every game, Spraywell's every game, Tim Thomas is at every game, Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson. If you spent when's Chris Dudley coming back? They've brought back just about everybody.
Okay. I love everything about this series. I love that we saw it last year. Yes. And one of the things I think we learned from last year is, and now again, you can spin this any way you want. Jalen Brunson did not seem bothered by Andrew Nembhard's defense. And Andrew Nembhard is an elite defensive player, but he's kind of profile the guy that Brunson is not bothered by. Brunson's stronger than he is and can move him around. And mid-series, they shifted Aaron Nesmith onto Jalen Brunson and put Nembhard somewhere else. I expect that to be the de facto matchup, Nesmith on Brunson. To me, what's really interesting about this series is we have two very good, one the best in the whole league, pick and pop centers, Towns and Miles Turner. And neither of these teams has of yet really, in any sustained way, experimented with the kind of inverting of the matchups that the Celtics just did to Karl Anthony Towns, where you put your big center on, if you're the Pacers, you put Miles Turner on Josh Hart, and you put someone else on Towns. Now, if that's Nesmith, that means someone else has to guard Brunson, and that someone else is going to be Nembhard, and we've seen how that's gone. If it's Siakam, that means someone else has to guard OG Anunoby, which you're probably okay with putting a smaller guy on OG Anunoby. We have not seen the Pacers do that almost hardly at all. And on the flip side, we have not seen the Knicks do that with Towns at all. They have guarded Miles Turner with Towns, and they have done so semi-traditional pick and roll coverage, sometimes drop and risk a Miles Turner open 3, sometimes come up to touch and up to the level of the screen and pray that Karl Anthony Towns doesn't trip over his own feet and can help and recover without a crisis. And while you do that, if Miles Turner is open, well, someone's got to fly off of Josh Hart. Or if Karl Towns is open, rather, someone has to fly. No, if Miles Turner's open, someone has to fly off Josh Hart and cloud Miles Turner's line of vision, and then Tyrese Halliburton can pick that apart. We've seen all kinds of defenses. I suspect in this series that is going to change. That one of these teams, if not both of them, are going to sell out to stop Towns shooting threes and Turner shooting threes. That the Pacers will, at times, much more than they have, mimic what the Celtics and many other teams have done and put Miles Turner on Josh Hart and put someone else on Karl Anthony Towns. And I suspect that even the Knicks, the stodgy, stubborn, fibsy Knicks, who adapted last round by switching a ton, more than anyone could have expected against Boston, are going to do either that, their version of that, and I don't know what their version of that is, because one edge the Pacers have in this series is I think it's easier for them to move Turner around onto Hart than it is for the Knicks to move Towns around. Who's Towns guarding? Aaron Nesmith? You want to risk Aaron Nesmith pick and pop threes? Maybe. Siakam? That might be the easy answer, but then I'm going right to the Halliburton-Siakam two-man game, which might be just as dangerous as the Halliburton-Turner two-man game, and seeing how you do that. or they will actually try to switch Towns a little bit more than you would expect onto Halliburton and see if and when Halliburton can punish him with step back threes, try to make Halliburton a driver. The Knicks have really kind of wanted to make him drive, prod into the lane, make him take floaters, make him go all the way to the rim. He wants to pass and he wants to shoot threes. Something is going to give on both sides of the ball where I think both teams are going to be dragged out of their defensive comfort zones, if not very quickly, then at some point in the middle of the series. And that's pivot point number one. And everything else kind of flows from there.
The Knicks weren't the greatest defensive team for most of the season, the regular season. And they have found another gear in the playoffs. And some of that, I think, has just been, the teams that they have faced, right? Obviously, the Celtics are elite. The Pistons, not so much. But I think I was, as I was going over things yesterday, something that struck me with regard to the matchups so far, I don't think the Knicks defense has truly been tested to the limit. You would think they would have been by the Celtics, but the Celtics really got bogged down in their three-point shooting and iso ball and stalled themselves out to an extent. I give the Knicks plenty of credit for creating the dynamics for that. But the Celtics, not a big ball movement team. Pistons, certainly not. Pacers are averaging 337 passes a game in the playoffs. That's number one in the league in the playoffs. They're averaging nearly 30 assists per game in the playoffs. That's number one. The Pistons and Celtics were two of the lowest in the league in the postseason in passes per game. The Knicks, by the way, also among the lowest, 253 passes per game. And the Pacers also lead the playoffs, as you would expect, in points off of assists. They're generating over 76 points a game off of assists. The Pacers, one of the things I love about them over the last couple of years is, they don't profile like a big powerhouse team, in part because like Halliburton's numbers don't just pop off the page. And Siakam's always been like a really good, second wheel in Toronto and Indianapolis. But these aren't your prototypical superstars or, perennial All-NBA. I think Halliburton's probably I assume we're going to hear All-NBA this week too. MVP and All-NBA are the things we're still waiting on, right? All rookie teams, maybe. So I think Halliburton will make All-NBA for the first time. But these guys do not strike you as your prototypical dominant, crush you superstars who are just going to go out and drop 30, 35 on your head every night. I think part of that's the way that those two guys are wired. And I think part of that is just by design. This Pacers team is just a really selfless, fun, ball movement kind of team. And I think that's going to test the Knicks defense in ways that they haven't been yet over the last 6-7 weeks. Has it been 6-7 weeks? Whatever it's been, a month. They're going to get tested. They're going to have to defend more actions. They're going to have to adjust more on the fly. Maybe not the highest individual offensive threats that they'll have faced, but collectively, I think this is a bigger challenge for them.
What's happened with the Pacers is this kind of basketball magic where, and I don't want to give all the credit to Halliburton because this is a team full of selfless, smart, just kinetic players, guys who like to pass and move and cut. But it all starts with Halliburton. It doesn't matter if you like to pass and move and cut if your alpha dog does not play a style that meshes with that. If you switch on the Pacers, Halliburton is not just going to sit there and dilly-dally with the ball. Sometimes he will because he wants to get Cat off balance and jack a step back three, and he did that to Jared Allen a few times when Cleveland switched. But he's just as liable to give it up immediately and cut somewhere else. Give and go, force Cat to move around, and then everyone else, that style has sort of been imbued throughout the roster. And there's just an unpredictability to them that is the antithesis of how the Celtics played against New York switching defense. And it's really hard to guard. I mentioned before that if they have Cat on Miles Turner and they run that Halliburton Turner pick and pop, which is just lethal, and Turner's open on the pop, and they send a third guy, a third rotator over to sort of contest Miles Turner on the catch, Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is the best guy in the league. The best, period. At seeing that rotation, baiting it, anticipating it before it even happens, and skipping the ball to the guy who becomes open when you make that rotation to Miles Turner. He's just so smart and so selfless that the simple stuff he will pick apart. And I think that's an edge for the Pacers. And they're also very deep and very healthy. The Knicks are healthy, not as deep. And you wonder at some point, does the bill come due for all the minutes that these guys have played? Brunson's had a couple of ankle things flare up in the playoffs. I think that chess match offensively with the pick and pop centers is super interesting. And also just like on a fundamental level, a lot of this will be the Pacers are going to hunt Brunson when they have the ball, and the Knicks are going to hunt Halliburton when they have the ball. And there are all sorts of creative ways where they can do that. And, Halliburton has made some big defensive plays in the playoffs in both series and kind of stood up a little better than he typically has when teams have gone at him that way. And Brunson stood up to the Celtics for the most part when the Knicks finally were like, hey, you know what? We're just going to switch you onto Tatum and Brown and see what happens. And nothing much bad really happened. And so I think that is an interesting little chess match. And just there's the Mitchell Robinson factor. Mitchell Robinson has completely changed the playoffs for the Knicks. And if there is weakness is too strong of a word. The Pacers are not a good rebounding team. Some of that is by choice. They don't get offensive rebounds. They want to get back on defense and at all costs. But they can be out physicaled by a mean, nasty team. And Mitchell Robinson is mean and nasty. And Karl Towns, I think he can get some post-up momentum against Turner. And I think if you put a smaller guy on him, he's proven that he can get a little traction there too. I think the physicality element with Mitchell Robinson is a big one. And I guess we got to watch for a hack a Mitch. The Pacers are deep enough where they can do that. Do you risk getting in the bonus? We saw all this, but like if he continues to not make free throws, we're going to see this, I think.
Oh, for sure. I think I'm very curious to see both the matchups against Towns and then how Towns responds. I mean, there were moments where it looked like Towns couldn't handle like the, Tobias Harris on him, smaller-ish matchup in the first round. Towns' shooting efficiency, both from 3 and from 2, are down markedly from the regular season. His assists are down. I think Towns has quietly had like just a solid, but not spectacular.
And to your point, he lit the Pacers up in the regular season precisely because the Pacers played traditional defense against him. And I don't know, we'll see some of that, but I think we'll see less of it in this series.
Yeah. I mean, this is his moment, right? Like, this is the point of the exercise for the Knicks. There were a lot of things that went into the deal for Towns, not least of which is that they had lost Hartenstein. They and Mitchell Robinson, they knew they were going to be without for months as they were, and they didn't know what he'd be like when he came back. They needed a center. They needed somebody to fill in the gap. The opportunity was there. And Towns is a more skilled player than Julius Randle. Like all of that, fine. It doesn't really matter what the rationale was. Now is the moment. And this time last year, we were talking a lot about like, okay, like Towns is on this stage for the first time in Minnesota. Well, different stage in New York. I think he's really had a nice season. Knicks fans are behind him. This series is going to test him again. I don't want to keep going back to the referendum word, but like this is the point of the exercise. This is why you went out and got him, to be a little bit more dynamic, to give Jalen Brunson an outlet, a co-star, somebody else who can carry the load at times. There's nobody else really. I think there's nobody else on this roster who's really going to initiate offense. And you mentioned it, like, Tibbs's rotation is barely 6.
We have more than enough to win. The game will tell you what to do.
He actually smiled the other night after they finished off the Celtics. He actually made a joke.
He's a man about town now. He's a freaking legend. The Knicks are in the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. Tibbs is a legend now. He's a made man. He's a man about town.
Build the statue now. No, I mean, listen, like the Tibbs era, no matter what happens next, is already an incredible success. Despite the fact that at any given moment, there's about like a 40%, 50% even faction of Knicks fans that are ready to throw Tibbs overboard you could hear the hand wringing from a mile away the other night where they're up by 30 or whatever in the fourth quarter and the starters are all still in. It drives Knicks fans crazy, but I mean, you can't argue with the results. I agree with you in the large principle here, which is that we know at some point physics and physiology do matter. Minutes overall do matter. Fatigue is a thing. Fatigue can lead to soft tissue injuries. Like you use the phrase as a bill come due. This is a series where, I think that's looming. Jalen Brunson has turned that same ankle, I think, 15 times just since the playoffs began, by the way. And it never seems to affect him. It's always this moment where it's like, oh my gosh, is he okay? Is he going to be able to, he disappears. He comes back with like a different pair of shoes on and then makes his next 7 shots in a row. But I do think this is that moment where you wonder about their resilience or their physical ability to continue.
I want to talk about Siakam real fast because I feel like he gets glossed over a lot in talking about the Pacers, in part because there are games where he really feels like a fill-in-the-blanks guy, where he just kind of finds offense. He finds spots to seal smaller guys under the basket randomly in transition. He fills every gap on defense, all that. I think he's got to be a major player, and intentionality has to be put into making him a massive part of their offense for the Pacers to win this series. I suspect Anunoby will be guarding him a lot, and that's a good matchup for the Knicks. He's not going to be able to hurt Anunoby much in the post, even as crafty as he is. But if Towns is on him, that unlocks a lot of stuff for their pick and roll attack. Even when Anunoby's on him, Mikal Bridges is going to guard Halliburton. He'll get the primary assignment on Halliburton. Can you dabble in a little bit of still inverted pick and rolls, Halliburton, Siakam, Halliburton, and see, can Pascal hurt Bridges on switches a little bit? If Brunson is stuck on Halliburton, if there's some random cross match where that happens, Halliburton can ISO Brunson, or you can bring Siakam into the play and have him sort of be a switch guy and attack Brunson on switches. I just think he's got to be a major intentional part of their offense. And part of that is like, the more confusing you can make the pick and roll for Towns, the better chance you have of nudging him into a mistake. Screen the screener, staggered screens. And Tyrese is a master at like faking toward a pick and rejecting it and going the other way. And like Cat takes the bait on a lot of that stuff and lurches like totally off kilter, way out of the play. I think this is an awesome series. It's time for me to make a pick. Well, do you want to make a pick first or no?
I am so on the fence on this one. This is a true toss-up series. I absolutely could see the Pacers winning this series. We established earlier, they are not afraid of any venue, any stage. They can win on the road. They can beat the Knicks at the Garden. The Knicks are in such a great groove right now, and they just knocked out the defending champions, for God's sake. It's hard to bet against them. This series should go 7 by everything that is right in the world. It should go 7, and if it goes down to the final seconds of Game 7 or even an overtime Game 7, it would be absolutely the appropriate. They're that close. Knicks in 7, I think. I could see the Pacers winning it, but if I have to pick, I'll just lean toward the team with the home court advantage.
I'm going with the Knicks. Knicks in 7.
Is this to make it up to your grade school chums who you were taunting about Ewing missing the finger roll?
Forget them. I don't talk to those people anymore.
Is this just decades of pent-up guilt, Zach? Is this just, I think this is what's happening.
I don't live glory days like Bruce Springsteen and his friends. I've moved on in my life, okay? I don't know what any of those people are up
Bruce
to.
has caught enough strays in the last few days. I don't think you need to be bringing him into this.
Okay. I made the case for the Pacers. It's easy to make the case for the Pacers.
Yep.
They're awesome. They've been better than the Knicks in the playoffs. Period. Maybe against not quite as good competition, but even that is arguable given, again, that Cleveland had all their guys available for all but one game.
64-win team.
They got a lot of answers. Miles Turner has become just such a splendid all-around player that he's been able to hurt every kind of defense they throw at him, put small guys on him. He posts up and he's efficient there. They're just really hard to play against, and they're really hard to guard. They've been better than the Knicks in the playoffs. They're deeper than the Knicks. They're healthier than the Knicks. They're faster than the Knicks. There's just something about the physicality and toughness of New York with Robinson back in particular that I just, in my gut, keep coming back to. I could see them sneaking this series out in 7 on pure physicality, toughness, relentlessness. They're just a bigger, stronger team than the Pacers, and I don't necessarily think that's going to win out. But that plus home court, plus I think a friendlier environment for Towns in this series. Obviously, we talked about all the schematic adjustments that can be made and all of that. I think like New York's offense has not been very good in the playoffs, and that's worrisome to me, and that's a reason to pick Indiana. I think that's a lot about the opposition that they've faced, and I think they will be able to score more efficiently against the Pacers than they have against the Celtics or the Pistons. I'm going Knicks in 7. I something about their physicality and ability to just sort of wear you down at every position appeals to me in this series, and the glass is a factor there too. I have no clue. I told you I was going to make a pick on the spot. My gut keeps saying Knicks in 7, Knicks in 7, Knicks in 7. And so I'm going to say Knicks in 7. Okay. This episode is brought to you by HubSpot. Growing a business can feel impossible, but HubSpot's customer platform can help. It's powered by a suite of AI tools called Breeze, so you can generate more leads, close more deals, and scale your service fast. With Breeze, agents handling the busy work, customers are cutting sales cycles in half. That's a lot. And saving hours on work each week. Best of all, you can see the results in days, not months. Visit HubSpot.com/AI to learn more.